Emma Chen's combat boots echo against the polished linoleum as she pushes through the heavy double doors of Riverside High's cafeteria. The familiar knot in her stomach tightens. The same feeling she's had at every new school for the past 4 years. Military brat life means constant goodbyes, constant fresh starts, constant proving herself all over again. But this time feels different. This time, her father won't be coming home from deployment to help her navigate the social minefield. The cafeteria sprawls before her like a battlefield mapped in invisible territories. Jocks dominate the center tables, their letterman jackets like armor. Theater kids cluster near the windows, animated and loud. The academic elite occupy the corner by the vending machines, textbooks scattered like shields around their fortress of achievement. And then there's the royal court, the untouchables who rule from their throne in the far corner, where the best lighting hits their perfectly styled hair. Emma clutches her brown paper bag tighter. No money for cafeteria food, not since Mom started pulling double shifts at the diner to keep their tiny apartment. The bag contains a peanut butter sandwich, an apple with a small bruise, and a juice box, the same lunch she's packed herself every day since she turned 12. She scans for neutral territory, somewhere she can eat in peace and maybe finish her calculus homework. That's when she sees them watching her. Madison Pierce sits like a queen holding court, her platinum blonde hair cascading over her shoulders in waves that probably cost more than Emma's monthly grocery budget. Her father owns Pierce Development. Half the strip malls and office buildings in town bear his name. Madison's never wanted for anything, and it shows in the casual way she wears her designer clothes. The effortless confidence that comes from never being told no. Flanking Madison are her lieutenants, Chloe Winters, whose mother runs the country club, and Brittany Walsh, daughter of the police chief. They're beautiful in that manufactured way, perfect teeth, perfect skin, perfect lives funded by perfect trust funds. Emma recognizes the type immediately. Every base, every school, there's always a Madison Pierce and her court. "Look what the military dragged in," Madison announces, her voice carrying across the cafeteria with practiced projection. She doesn't need to raise her voice. When Madison Pierce speaks, people listen. Conversations pause mid-sentence. Heads turn like sunflowers following the sun. Emma feels the weight of 300 pairs of eyes settling on her shoulders. She keeps walking, hoping to find sanctuary at an empty table near the back. Her worn Converse squeaks against the floor, a sound that seems amplified in the sudden hush. The brown bag crinkles in her grip as she spots a small table tucked behind a pillar. Perfect. Isolated enough to avoid attention. Close enough to the exit for a quick escape if needed. But Madison Pierce doesn't let prey escape that easily. "Oh my God. Look at those boots," Chloe Stage whispers, her voice pitched perfectly to Carrie. "Are those from the Army surplus store?" Brittany giggles on cue. "I think I saw the same pair in a war movie." Very authentic. Emma slides into her chosen seat, back to the wall, another habit learned from her father. Always know your exits. Always keep your back protected. She unwraps her sandwich with deliberate calm, refusing to give them the reaction they're hunting for. But she can feel them watching, calculating, like predators sizing up wounded prey. The whispers spread through the cafeteria like wildfire. New girl, military family. Lives in those apartments by the highway. Each whisper adds another layer to her growing reputation. Emma takes a bite of her sandwich, chewing mechanically while her peripheral vision tracks the movement at Madison's table. They're standing now. All three of them, moving with the synchronized precision of a pack that's hunted together before. Madison leads, her designer heels clicking against the floor like a countdown timer. Students part before them instinctively, creating a clear path to Emma's table. Phone cameras start appearing, modern teenagers, instinct to document drama before it even unfolds. Emma's training kicks in automatically. Her father's voice echoes in her memory. Situational awareness, kiddo. Always know who's around you, what they're carrying, how they're moving. She catalogs threats without lifting her eyes from her sandwich. Madison, 5'6", maybe 120 soaking wet, but dangerous in the way that comes from never facing consequences. Chloe, taller, athletic build, probably plays tennis at the country club. Brittany, compact but solid, moves like someone who's been in fights before. Excuse me. Madison's voice drips false politeness as she approaches Emma's table. I think you're sitting in my spot. Emma looks up slowly, meeting Madison's perfectly made-up eyes. I don't see your name on it. The response draws a few snickers from nearby tables, but they die quickly under Madison's withering glare. She places her manicured hands on the table, leaning forward like a predator closing distance. Maybe you don't understand how things work here. Charity case. This is my cafeteria. These are my tables. And you? She pauses for effect. Are nobody. The circle tightens. Chloe moves to Emma's left, Brittany to her right. Classic pincer movement, cutting off escape routes. The crowd grows thicker, sensing blood in the water. Emma can hear the soft chimes of phones recording, the whispered commentary of spectators placing bets on the outcome. I just want to eat my lunch, Emma says quietly, her voice steady despite the adrenaline starting to flood her system. Her father's training wars with her mother's lessons about avoiding trouble. I'm not looking for problems. Madison's laugh is sharp as broken glass. Too late for that, sweetheart. See, we have standards here. And you? She gestures at Emma's thrift store clothes, her warm backpack, her humble lunch. Don't meet them. The crowd presses closer, forming a human arena. Emma recognizes the setup now. This isn't random bullying. This is a public execution, designed to establish dominance and send a message to anyone else who might challenge the established order. Madison needs to make an example of her, to show the school that even military brats aren't exempt from the social hierarchy. Emma's hands remain flat on the table, non-threatening. But underneath the surface, her muscles coil with potential energy. Years of her father's games have left her with reflexes most teenagers don't possess. The irony isn't lost on her. Madison thinks she's cornered a helpless victim. She has no idea she's actually trapped a sleeping weapon. Please, Emma tries one last time, her voice carrying just enough vulnerability to make Madison's eyes light up with anticipation. I don't want any trouble. Madison straightens, sensing victory. The crowd holds its breath, phones recording, waiting for the moment when the new girl breaks. When she cries or runs or begs. When Madison Pierce proves once again that she's the undisputed queen of Riverside High. But Emma Chun isn't like other prey. And Madison Pierce is about to learn that some military brats bite back. The trap is set. The audience is ready. And in 30 seconds, everything is going to change. Madison's smile spreads across her face like poison honey, sweet and deadly. She's performed this ritual dozens of times before. The public humiliation of anyone who dares to exist outside her carefully constructed hierarchy. Each victory has been easier than the last, each victim more compliant. Teachers look the other way when Madison Pierce flexes her power. Her father's donations built the new gymnasium, funded the computer lab, keeps the school board happy and quiet. You know what I think. Madison's voice carries across the silent cafeteria, each word calculated for maximum impact. I think you need to learn some respect. Emma slowly pushes back from the table, her chair scraping against the floor with a sound like fingernails on a chalkboard. She stands with deliberate care, her movements controlled and measured. At 5'4", she's shorter than Madison, but there's something in her posture that makes several students in the front row unconsciously step back. Her father's training whispers in her muscle memory. Never show fear, but never provoke unnecessarily. Sometimes the best fight is the one you avoid. "I'll move," Emma says, her voice steady as bedrock. "No problem." But Madison's eyes glitter with predatory excitement. She's tasted blood now, felt the intoxicating rush of absolute power over another human being. Moving isn't enough anymore. Emma needs to be broken, publicly and completely. The crowd needs to see what happens to those who don't immediately bow to Madison Pierce's authority. "Too late for that charity case," Madison purrs, taking a step closer. The designer perfume she wears, something French and expensive, mingles with the cafeteria's smell of industrial food and teenage anxiety. "You should have shown proper respect from the beginning." Chloe moves to Emma's left with the fluid grace of someone who's done this dance before. Her tennis bracelet catches the fluorescent light as she crosses her arms, blocking the path to the main exit. She's enjoying this, the power, the attention, the way underclassmen watch her with a mixture of fear and admiration. Being Madison's lieutenant comes with privileges, and public executions are one of the perks. Brittany slides to Emma's right, her police chief father's training evident in how she positions herself to cut off the side exit. Unlike Chloe, Brittany doesn't smile. This is business for her, a necessary demonstration of force to maintain order. Her father taught her that sometimes you have to hurt people to keep them in line, and she's internalized that lesson completely. The human circle tightens like a noose. Students press closer, their phones held high like modern torches, recording everything for posterity. Social media will explode within minutes, hashtags will trend, videos will go viral, and Emma Chun will become a cautionary tale about what happens when you don't know your place. "My daddy says your kind doesn't belong here," Madison continues, her voice dropping to a conversational tone that somehow carries more menace than shouting. "Says military families are just welfare cases with uniforms. Says you people drag down property values just by existing." Emma's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. She can handle insults about herself, about her clothes, about her circumstances. But attacking her father, a man who's bled for his country, who's missed birthdays and Christmases in school, plays to serve something bigger than himself, that crosses a line carved in her DNA. "My father serves his country," Emma replies quietly, her hands still visible and non-threatening. "He's deployed right now, protecting people like you." Madison's laugh is like breaking crystal. "Protecting me? Honey, my daddy's tax dollars pay your daddy's salary. He works for us." She leans closer, close enough that Emma can see the perfect application of her makeup, smell the mint on her breath from her sugar-free gum. "Which means you work for us too." The crowd murmurs its approval. This is better than reality TV. Better than any drama they could stream on their phones. Real conflict, real humiliation, happening right in front of them. Some students look uncomfortable, but none move to intervene. Madison Pierce's power extends beyond her immediate circle, encompasses the entire social ecosystem of Riverside High. Emma takes a slow breath, centering herself the way her father taught her. "Please," she says, injecting just enough vulnerability into her voice to make Madison's pupils dilate with anticipation. "I just want to eat my lunch and go to class." "Then eat this," Madison snarls, and signals with a barely perceptible nod. The attack comes from Emma's blind spot, exactly as planned. Chloe's fist rockets toward Emma's temple with surprising speed and power. Years of tennis have given her strong shoulders and quick reflexes, and she puts everything behind the punch. It's not a slap or a push. It's a genuine attempt to cause serious damage. Emma sees it coming in her peripheral vision, but she's trapped by her own performance. Moving too quickly, defending too expertly, would reveal training that a normal teenager shouldn't possess. So she takes the hit, but not quite the way Chloe intended. The fist connects with Emma's temple, but she's already turning with the impact, rolling with the force instead of absorbing it fully. Even so, the blow sends lightning through her skull, Her vision explodes into stars and static. The taste of copper floods her mouth as she bites her tongue. The cafeteria spins like a carnival ride as her equilibrium fails. Emma stumbles backward, her legs suddenly unreliable. The crowd's roar sounds like it's coming from underwater. She reaches out blindly for support, her hand finding only air. Her knees buckle, and she crashes to the unforgiving concrete floor, her head bouncing once against the polished surface with a sound like a dropped melon. Silence descends like a heavy blanket. Even Madison looks momentarily shocked by the violence of Emma's fall. Blood trickles from Emma's nose, a thin red line against her pale skin. Her eyes are closed, her breathing shallow. For a terrifying moment, several students wonder if they've just witnessed something far worse than a simple fight. "Holy shit," someone whispers. And the spell breaks. Madison recovers first, her shock transforming into triumphant satisfaction. "Welcome to Riverside, loser," she announces, her voice carrying across the silent cafeteria like a victory proclamation. She turns to address her audience, arms spread wide like a conquering general. "Let this be a lesson to anyone else who thinks they can just walk into my school and disrespect me." Phones continue recording, capturing every second of Emma's humiliation. The video will be online within minutes, shared across every social platform, tagged and hashtagged and memed into digital immortality. Emma Chun's destruction will become entertainment, her pain transformed into content for the endless appetite of teenage social media. Chloe flexes her fingers, examining her knuckles for damage. "Damn, she went down hard," she says with satisfaction. "Guess military training doesn't help when you're unconscious." Brittany nods approvingly. "My dad always says the best fights are the ones that end quick. No point dragging it out." Madison basks in the attention, the fear, the absolute confirmation of her power. This is what she lives for, the moment when everyone remembers exactly who runs Riverside High. The new girl is finished, broken, relegated to the bottom of the social food chain where she belongs. But as Madison turns back to gloat over her fallen victim, she misses something crucial. Emma's breathing has changed. Her fingers have curled slightly, and behind her closed eyelids, something very dangerous is waking up. The 43 seconds of unconsciousness are almost over. And when Emma Chun opens her eyes, Madison Pierce is going to discover that she's made a terrible mistake. 43 seconds. That's how long Emma Chun's consciousness floats in the dark space between sleep and waking, between the girl who just wanted to eat lunch in peace and something far more dangerous. In that liminal space, her father's voice echoes like a prayer. "When someone hurts you, kiddo, you have two choices. You can stay down and let them win, or you can get up and show them what a real fighter looks like." The first thing that returns is her breathing. Not the shallow, unconscious rhythm of someone knocked out, but the deep, controlled pattern her father drilled into her during countless training sessions in their garage. 4 counts in through the nose, hold for 2, 4 counts out through the mouth. Combat breathing. The kind that floods your system with oxygen and clears the fog from your mind. The second thing is awareness. Even with her eyes closed, Emma can map the cafeteria around her through sound and vibration. Madison's designer heels clicking as she paces in victory. Chloe's nervous giggle as she examines her knuckles. Brittany's heavy breathing, adrenaline still coursing through her system. The crowd's murmur, a mixture of excitement and unease. 300 teenagers holding their breath, waiting to see if the new girl will cry, will run, will break completely. The third thing is rage. Not the hot, explosive anger of a normal teenager, but something colder, more focused. The kind of fury that comes from watching your father leave for his 4th deployment, knowing he might not come back. The kind that builds when you move from base to base, always the outsider, always having to prove yourself. The kind that crystallizes when some spoiled princess attacks your family's honor and thinks, She can get away with it. Emma's eyes snap open. The change is immediate and terrifying. Gone is the nervous new girl clutching her brown bag lunch. In her place lies something predatory, something that has been shaped by years of military discipline and combat training. Her pupils dilate as her nervous system floods with adrenaline, but it's controlled adrenaline, channeled and focused like a laser beam. She doesn't scramble to her feet like a panicked victim. Instead, she rises with the fluid precision of a coiled spring releasing. Her movements are economical, purposeful, each muscle firing in perfect sequence. The blood from her nose has stopped flowing, and she wipes it away with the back of her hand in a gesture that somehow looks more threatening than vulnerable Madison. Still basking in her moment of triumph, doesn't notice the transformation immediately. She's turned toward the crowd, arms spread wide like a conquering general addressing her troops. See what happens when you don't show proper respect, she announces, her voice carrying across the silent cafeteria. This is my school, and everyone needs to remember that. But the crowd's reaction isn't what she expects. Instead of cheers or laughter, she sees something else in their faces. Fear. Not fear of her, but fear of something behind her. Students in the front row actually take steps backward, their phones still recording, but their expressions shifting from excitement to genuine alarm. Chloe notices first. Madison? She says, her voice suddenly uncertain. The new girls. Madison turns, expecting to see Emma crawling away in defeat or curled up crying on the floor. Instead, she finds herself looking into eyes that belong in a war zone, not a high school cafeteria. Emma stands perfectly balanced, her weight distributed evenly on both feet, her hands loose at her sides but ready to move in any direction. There's something in her posture that makes Madison's hindbrain scream warnings her conscious mind doesn't understand. What the hell? Madison stammers, taking an involuntary step backward. This isn't how the script is supposed to go. Victims stay down. They cry. They run. They don't stand up looking like they could tear you apart with their bare hands. Emma doesn't speak. She doesn't need to. Her father taught her that sometimes silence is the most powerful weapon in your arsenal. Let your enemies fill the quiet with their own fears, their own doubts. Let them make the first move so you can respond with overwhelming force. The crowd senses the shift in dynamics, like animals sensing an approaching storm. The excited chatter dies completely, replaced by a tension so thick it's almost visible. Phones continue recording, but now they're documenting something entirely different than what they expected. This isn't a simple bullying incident anymore. This is something primal, something dangerous. Madison's confidence wavers for the first time in years. She's used to immediate capitulation, to victims who know their place in the social hierarchy. Emma's calm, predatory stillness is outside her experience, beyond her understanding. But she's committed now, trapped by her own reputation and the expectations of her audience. Stay down, freak. Madison shouts, her voice cracking slightly with uncertainty. She swings again, putting all her frustration and confusion behind the blow. It's a wild haymaker, telegraphed and clumsy. The kind of punch that works on victims who are already broken. But Emma isn't a victim. Any more she moves like liquid mercury, flowing around Madison's punch with an economy of motion that seems to defy physics. One moment Madison's fist is cutting through air where Emma's head should be. The next moment Emma is inside her guard, close enough to count her eyelashes. Emma's hand shoots up with surgical precision, catching Madison's wrist mid-swing. Her fingers find the exact pressure points her father taught her. The ones that turn a human hand into a collection of fragile bones and vulnerable joints. The joint lock is textbook perfect, a technique refined by generations of warriors and passed down through military training programs. Madison's scream pierces the cafeteria like a fire alarm. It's not the theatrical shriek of someone seeking attention. but the genuine cry of someone experiencing real pain for the first time in their privileged life. Her knees buckle as Emma applies just enough pressure to demonstrate complete control without causing permanent damage. The crowd gasps collectively, a sound like air being sucked out of the room. This is beyond their experience, beyond their understanding of how high school conflicts are supposed to unfold. Madison Pierce, the untouchable queen of Riverside High, is on her knees, completely helpless, controlled by the girl they all thought was finished. What the hell is happening? Chloe whispers, her voice barely audible over Madison's continued cries. She's frozen in place, her tennis-trained reflexes useless against something she doesn't understand. This isn't a catfight or a social media drama. This is something else entirely. Brittany's police chief father has taught her to recognize real violence when she sees it, and every instinct is screaming at her to run. But she's trapped by loyalty, by the social contract that binds Madison's inner circle together. She can't abandon her queen, even when that queen is clearly outmatched. Emma holds the joint lock for exactly 3 seconds, long enough to establish dominance, short enough to avoid permanent injury. Her father's voice echoes in her memory. Control the engagement. Use minimum necessary force. Always leave your opponent a way out. But as Emma prepares to release Madison and step back, she sees movement in her peripheral vision. Chloe and Brittany are moving, their shock overcome by pack loyalty. They're going to rush her together, try to overwhelm her with numbers. Emma's lips curve in something that might charitably be called a smile. Her father trained her for multiple attackers. This is about to become a very different kind of lesson. The real fight is just beginning. Emma releases Madison's wrist with the same surgical precision she used to capture it, but she doesn't step back. Instead, she shifts her weight slightly, settling into a stance that would be familiar to any military combative's instructor. Her feet are shoulder-width apart, knees slightly bent, center of gravity low and stable. To the untrained eye, she looks almost casual. To anyone who understands violence, she looks like a loaded weapon. Madison crumples to the floor, cradling her wrist against her chest. Tears stream down her perfectly made-up face, leaving dark trails of mascara like war paint in reverse. She's never experienced real pain before, not the kind that comes from someone who knows exactly how to hurt you. Her world of designer clothes and daddy's money has insulated her from consequences, but that protection has just been stripped away in the most brutal fashion possible. "You broke my wrist," Madison sobs, though Emma knows she didn't. The joint lock was precisely calibrated, painful enough to demonstrate control, but causing no permanent damage. Her father taught her the difference between incapacitation and injury, between necessary force and excessive violence. Chloe recovers first, her shock transforming into protective fury. Madison isn't just her queen. She's her ticket to the top of the social hierarchy, her access to parties and privileges, and the kind of power that makes high school bearable. Watching her idol reduced to a crying mess on the cafeteria floor triggers something primal in Chloe's brain. "You psycho bitch!" Chloe screams, launching herself at Emma with all the grace and technique of an angry house cat. Her tennis training has given her quick reflexes and strong shoulders, but it's designed for hitting balls, not people. She swings wildly, her manicured nails extended like claws, aiming for Emma's face. Emma doesn't even blink. She steps inside Chloe's wild swing, her movement so smooth it looks choreographed. Her elbow rises in a short, sharp arc that intersects with Chloe's solar plexus at exactly the right angle. The strike is perfectly placed hard enough to empty Chloe's lungs and drop her to the floor, but not hard enough to cause lasting damage. Chloe's eyes go wide as every molecule of air evacuates her lungs. She makes a sound like a deflating balloon, her hands clutching at her chest as she struggles to remember how breathing works. She hits the floor hard, gasping like a fish out of water, her perfectly styled hair fanning around her head like a golden halo. The crowd's collective gasp is audible even over Chloe's desperate wheezing. This isn't a fight anymore. It's a demonstration. Emma isn't just defending herself. She's systematically dismantling the power structure of Riverside High with surgical precision. Brittany hesitates for a crucial second. Her police chief father's training warring with her teenage loyalty. She recognizes real combat skills when she sees them, understands that Emma isn't some random new girl who got lucky. But Madison is still crying on the floor. Chloe is still gasping for air, and 300 students are watching to see what she do. Pride wins over prudence. Brittany charges with more technique than Chloe showed. Her father's lessons evident in how she keeps her guard up and aims for center mass. She's been in real fights before, not the social media drama that passes for conflict among her peers, but actual physical confrontations with consequences. But Emma has been trained by someone who fought in actual wars. Emma's leg sweep is a thing of beauty, executed with the kind of timing that can only come from thousands of repetitions. She waits until Brittany commits fully to her charge, until her weight is moving forward and she can't change direction. Then Emma's leg sides out in a perfect arc, catching Brittany's ankles at exactly the moment when both feet are off the ground. Physics takes over from there. Brittany's feet fly out from under her body describing a perfect parabola through the air before crashing into the nearest lunch table. Trays explode in all directions, sending food and drinks cascading across the floor in a spectacular mess. Brittany lands hard among the debris, her breath knocked out, her confidence shattered along with several plastic plates. Total elapsed time, 8 seconds. 8 seconds to dismantle 3 years of carefully constructed social hierarchy. 8 seconds to prove that money and connections and daddy's influence mean nothing when faced with real skill and genuine violence. 8 seconds to transform from victim to victor in the most public way possible. The cafeteria falls into a silence so complete that Emma can hear the fluorescent lights humming overhead. 300 teenagers stand frozen, their phones still recording, but their minds struggling to process what they've just witnessed. This isn't how high school works. This isn't how the world is supposed to function. Emma stands in the center of the destruction, completely calm, her breathing still controlled and steady. She looks down at Madison, who has stopped crying and is now staring up at her with something approaching terror. The queen of Riverside High has been dethroned, and everyone knows it. I said I didn't want trouble, Emma repeats quietly, her voice carrying across the silent cafeteria with perfect clarity. She reaches down and picks up her brown paper bag, checking the contents with the same methodical care she might use to field strip a weapon. The sandwich is intact. The apple has a new bruise. The juice box survived unscathed. She walks calmly to Madison's abandoned table, the throne from which the former queen ruled her domain. The crowd parts before her like the Red Sea, students pressing against the walls to give her space. No one wants to be the next person to test the new girl's capabilities. Emma sits down with deliberate ceremony, placing her lunch on the table with the same precision she used to dismantle her attackers. She unwraps her sandwich, takes a careful bite, chews thoughtfully. The peanut butter tastes exactly the same as it did 5 minutes ago, but everything else has changed. Madison struggles to her feet, still cradling her wrist, her designer clothes rumpled and stained. Her carefully constructed image lies in ruins around her, as shattered as the lunch trays scattered across the floor. She looks around desperately for support, for someone to restore the natural order, but finds only averted eyes and uncomfortable silence. Chloe finally manages to draw a full breath, pushing herself up on shaking arms. Her tennis bracelet is broken, its expensive links scattered across the floor like fallen stars. She looks at Emma with a mixture of fear and something approaching respect, the kind of respect that comes from recognizing a superior predator. Brittany extricates herself from the wreckage of the lunch table, food stains decorating her previously pristine outfit. Her father taught her to recognize when she's outmatched, when retreat is the better part of valor. This is one of those times. Emma takes another bite of her sandwich, then looks up at the assembled crowd with eyes that have seen too much for someone her age. When she speaks, her voice is conversational, almost friendly. Anyone else hungry? The question hangs in the air like a challenge, like a promise, like a new law being written in real time. The old order is dead. The queen has fallen. And in her place sits a girl with a brown bag lunch and the kind of skills that end fights in seconds. Welcome to the new Riverside High, where respect is earned, not inherited, and where the quiet ones are often the most dangerous of all.